A AIS, para quem não conhece, a AIS Digital é uma empresa de tecnologia focada em produtos.
AIS is a company that is a technology company focused on digital. I'm going to share the stage with my colleague Arthur. He is an expert in integration. We've been together over the journey in the past few years. And I'm going to start sharing a little bit of what our partners tell about us. We've been working over the past 7 years with some partners. Today we're going to focus on insurance and the financial sector. And what our partners say about us is that the channels are undergoing change. There's a shift in focus, and the customer is in the center. It is getting closer to the channels. So we want to take the digital platforms closer to our customers. We have a problem of changing institutional culture. There are fintechs, which means that there's more and more connectivity between companies, less red tape regarding the financial sector and the insurance market. There's always also a concern with safety, information security, and we also listen companies talking about innovation a lot. And lastly is digital transformation. Many companies are already implementing it, and others are still taking baby steps. So the drivers are kind of repetitive. What is at the core of channel transformation is focused on customer experience. And this customer experience is multi-channel. We have physical channels, and when we talk about digital and call center, other channels, we always talk about a unique experience. So we always talk about timing. Customers have to be able to solve their problems using one channel. We have to be efficient. There's no use in designing a wall journey if you're not able to implement it. When you work with better efficiency, you're lowering costs, you can be more aggressive and competitive, and your business becomes more profitable. Because our business partners, their main goal is profitability. So we're going to share some cases. I'm going to start with a very interesting one. It was a housing credit broker. So they wanted to offer credit at the purchasing moment. We know that getting a loan to buy a house is really difficult. There's risk analysis, there are different regulations, and the objective of this case was to reduce from 120 to 8 days the approval for credit. So we've designed a product which is here in the screen. We had a flow with a pre-registration, and then we had the notary. We've designed it. We created a platform, a API, and a platform. Did we solve the problem? No. Why? Because the processes behind the journey, the flow, were the same. There was inefficiency. We had a cultural problem. The back end was still doing more of the same. So we've included an API in the center. The first thing we did was listen to the customers, the B2B and B2C customers. We had a network of brokers selling the products. And once we got internally, we noticed that the products, if we divided it into different microservices, it would be better for the B2B, and when solving the problem of the B2B, we consequently solved the problem of the B2C. So what did we do back then? We've created other 8 products. I'm going to show you in the next slides which were the products. Based on that, we've created a white label version of the product. Smaller partners who couldn't invest could try a white label version. So we offered our experience to our partners. After this, we started working with larger partners like large construction companies, and this type of service was good, but it would generate 4,000 loan contracts monthly. So what did we do? We created a set of products that generated value, great value. So how did we monetize? We've designed the ROI, and we realized that applying some microservices in the middle of the macro process would generate huge savings. There were services that were performed only here because there was a standard, and they started doing it here at the beginning. If they make a risk validation, they improve the funnel. They wouldn't spend time with clients that weren't likely to be approved. So we've created many other offerings. And now, based on what Kleber said, we had APIs and also microservices that made a huge difference in the structure. So now I'm going to show you a case of an insurance company. So what was the model? There was a bank. The product would be sold in a bank, and the bank accounted for 90% of the volume of sale of the company. But at the same time that it was sold a lot, there was a high churning. So what we needed was to increase customer engagement, and we wanted the offering of the bank to be something that added value to our customers. So the architecture was like, you have a bank, a sales platform belonging to the insurance company, and here you had the business lines that were offered. So 90% was a huge volume business model, but it wasn't focused on customer relationships. So what did we do? We've created the program that is used until today based on lines of business. But there was a problem. The silos point of view from business was challenging. We had to create a 360 vision. SOA already existed. APIs didn't exist back then. So we noticed that in combining APIs and microservices, I will use an expression that a friend used. So making a diet would generate something that some institutions call bimodal, double speed. There are many different expressions, but what happened is that a services layer was created, and the entire complexity of a channel that was very much based on the structure of a bank. The bank would determine which product would be launched and the configuration of the product, but customer relationship was done through bank branches. And in our case, it couldn't be like this. We had to create other channels. We've activated a customer relationship central. We launched the mobile channel, and there was the website as well. So what did we add? We included pricing and product rules. Why is that? Because depending on the back end, it's not as fast as we need, and it also wouldn't create an ideal journey, because we needed windows, which are very common in the insurance industry sector. And one thing that was very good was the omni-channel and multi-channel. The omni-channel defines that you can start a relationship in one channel and finish it in another one. So I start a claim request on my mobile, and if by some reason I'm not able to finish through that channel, I'll call the customer service. So if we use an API, internal APIs and partners as well, those who work in the insurance sector know that companies work with partners or assistant counselors, so you have to bring your partner to your experience. And then the architecture was like this. We've strengthened the physical channel. We cannot ignore the 90% volume, so we had to strengthen it. But we also created other forms of achieving the customer. In the past, those customers belonged only to the bank, and the insurance company understood that they had different values from those of the bank. And one of the tangible results was a reduction by 40% of the average waiting time to be answered in the customer service. So this is huge economy, and then it results in a much better customer experience. Good. So then we went to a fully digital company. The company was born digital. When we were studying it, the idea was to make direct sales of insurance products. So how do we do this? You have to know the customer's habits and design the journey. So we had to learn about the Brazilian insurance market. We've performed many different studies, and in the end, I remember that the business plan that had been designed for the company was really aggressive. There was an expected sales goal that was very high, because it was going to be the first direct insurance company. They would get the 90% of the market channel. Good, so we had to launch it very fast. It was a challenge because we had to launch the company in 8 months. So what did we use? We used a conventional insurance company to operate. Those who work in this field know that creating an insurance company is really difficult. So we've used a conventional structure. Is it similar to the model of Banco Original? Yeah. So we had a fully digital experience, but behind it, it was still traditional. Did it work? Yes, for 5 months. And why did it work? Because back then, we created a digital layer. The digital layer had product pricing rules. It will also had an intelligent engine to support the journey according to the customer's decisions. Once again, the omni channel, and this company used new partners, and if they hadn't done this, it wouldn't have been possible. So non-conventional partners were brought here, startups, different companies. And it's good to mention this because this company didn't achieve that business outcome. It was 40% below the goal, which was the strategy. Going back to the distribution channels, the solution was to include a telemarketing central. So the direct sale goal was abandoned. No, it wasn't. In the insurance market, direct sale is still challenging because we don't have the habit of buying insurance directly from the company. So the volume of leading capture was really high because we had advertisements and other things. So if we didn't have the layer of APIs in the middle, we wouldn't have been able to deliver. So after 4 months of using the mother insurance company operation, it created its own operation, and this was basically what I wanted to share with you. Now Arthur is going to share with you the challenges. My name is Arthur Fonseca. I work at AIS Digital, and I want to share with you some of the challenges we've faced along with our partners in order to reach some of the results that Samuel has just shared with you. The first challenge is related to sufficiency. In many things, we might consider it as something good, and it is. But if you think that you want to do everything, it becomes difficult. So if you think I'm going to do everything, I'm going to create my entire solution, there are problems. In the same institution, we had a different department doing things that were exactly the same because there was no dialogue. So at the end of the day, we were still working with silos. There was this case of which I took part. There was a development team, and we were asking access to try the environment, and there was a different repository because we wanted to be able to test to environment, and then they said, look, you would have two paying accounts of the same version because people didn't talk to each other. I had good training with SOA, and then people started not talking to each other, and we had problems with too many layers. We had a back end, and when Samuel started talking about omni-channel, if you leave the business rule on one specific channel, it makes it harder to grow because you have to specify specific rules for each channel. Apart from that, there is data that we don't want to expose in certain layers. We don't want our users to see the business rules within our legacy. So how did we address this? Through APIs. We also had a cultural problem. It is a cartoon that I really like. I've been working with SOA since 2012. So it says, oh, isn't it nice? Isn't it nice? We are going to share the database. And then someone says, look, I don't want to share my database with the people from marketing. So we ended up realizing that within the same company there was a problem of sharing values which compromised scalability. The focus wasn't on the business area. The focus was the product, the corporation. So we started showing people that the whole was more important. Of course, they would have differences in autonomy, but we had to think of the company as a whole. And then we had to think of placing the customer in the center. So we have to think of the journey. We've designed many different flows and different approaches, and then we noticed things that could be changed. Well, from point A, we could go to point C and then point D, and instead of having only one flow, we could split it into different smaller processes. And we also started talk to our people from Y and explain to them that our customers should be at the center. And we asked them to design a good experience for your users. But then we had a problem.
And here I make allusion to this painting of Jesus Christ, and I think all of you know the story. The problem in this case was our UX design team is very creative, and they create very interesting flows. And when it was time to link the flows with our legacy, it just didn't work. So what we decided to do was, are we going to cut off the design guys? Or, no, we're going to pull our legacy from bottom up. No. We decided to use a API strategy. I think you already know the first strategy, which is starting with APIs, but not with it implemented. So we started getting the specification API team with the UI, with the UX, with the design teams. And the specification team started looking at the legacy, start looking at the bases, so you can suggest something that will allow for all the creativity that these guys have. And when we started doing that, we understood that, look, this is the series of things we can do. The guys from UI thought, wow, this is good, and we can move forward to this other scenario. And the other thing that we started doing with the API first is we took the development guys from the view and the development guys from back end. So first of all, UI, design, UX would create the API and also a model that should be. At the next moment, from the division team, may it be mobile, web, whatever, they had access to these frames and started collecting them, thinking about API. But it wasn't connected to anything. It was just a contract. Then they started creating mocks and false data to be able to get this in and understand how it would work. So we eliminated this enormous bottleneck that we have, which was the customer saying, where is the developer, where is the back end, I want the service ready. So we said, look, this is how we're going to work from now on. This is a structure. You have to base yourself on this. And if you do this, you will be able to link it nicely. And that's what the back-end guys started doing as well. So then you show these issues to your customers and the back-end team. And this is where we understood we had to stay. We don't want to bring just data, like Kleber said, oh, I'm going to bring the data from my data bank, from my legacy. all my tables, all my charts to my customer. It's not interesting. API's focus is on business. So you have to have someone that has a business understanding be part of it. We also understood the evolution of business. We understand that it's something that's going to keep always changing. So when we look at this eclipse, our business is the black ball and the evolution being the yellow ball. So at some point, our evolution does englobe the business. And if we can't move forward with the solution, we are totally out of compass, and sometimes we end up having to throw everything away. And how can we do this without talking about a miraculous solution? So we decided to bet on small causes. And so we understood it was easier to move smaller parts than actually moving the whole, a monolith, a block. Another advantage that we saw in microservices and businesses is that we could reorganize it, bringing more flow and offering it in a better way to our customers. The issue of hot labels, for example. Another thing that Samuel mentioned here a lot is efficiency. And in efficiency, we understand that we're talking about different speeds. We've worked with multidisciplinary teams. These teams were able to get experiences that converted. We had a case of a team that worked with Android in not the customer level, and the customer team was working differently. So we thought, what if we put all these guys on the same stack? The test part, you can do with both teams using the same framework, and then you gain speed. So in a team that I had an Android developer, started working as a back-end developer, and then each one started helping the other because they were converting to the same thing. So when we talk about different speeds, but I'm not offering to you something saying everything is microservices now, and that we're going to kill everything, do everything in small parts. We understand the value of things, and we understand what Samuel was talking about bimodal, of having two different speeds. We understand that there are areas that are going to have more regulation, things that are going to suffer more control over, and areas that you can innovate more. And there's also the aspect when we talk about the division of up to where can I make cuts, where are the boundaries, and what area can go up to where, because then you can do what Samuel said. You have an area that doesn't have so much difficulty in evolution, and you can put a part of your business that might not influence in your legacy. So you don't have to change a lower level. Of course, this is something that you have to study deeply, and you need a whole team for. But basically, this is one of the other strategies that you used. And so I'd like to finish here. We have a booth out there, and we'd like to talk to all of you out there if you have any doubts, so we can talk more about APIs and about digital transformation. Thank you so much.